welcome back to the Language of Leadership, where we dive deep into the essence of leadership. We're going to break down the core attributes that every successful leader must master to foster a high-performing, cohesive team. I'm your host, Chuck Marting, and today it's going to be about focusing on two vital leadership qualities: patience and persistence. When it comes to developing your team, these are the two most important principles that I can teach you. You see, as leaders, it's easy to expect quick results or to become even frustrated when progress seems slow. However, the road to building a great team doesn't happen overnight, and it requires a steadfast approach. In today's episode, we're going to explore how leaders can practice patience and persistence, sharing real-life stories of leaders who embody these traits to transform their teams and achieve the remarkable results. So now, before we dive in, let me remind you, leadership isn't about giving orders and expecting results. Leadership is about empowering your team, investing in their growth, and staying committed to their development, no matter how long it takes. So, are you ready to learn the art of patience and persistence in leadership? Let's get started. So, patience is often underdeveloped in leadership. In today's fast-paced, results-driven world, we're conditioned to want everything immediately, instant access, immediate team cohesiveness, and even flawless execution from day one. But anyone who has led a team knows that real growth takes time, and that's where patience comes in. I want to share a story with you about Howard Schultz. He's the visionary leader behind Starbucks. When Howard first purchased the company, it was a small chain of coffee shops. He had a big vision to turn Starbucks into a globally recognized brand. But he quickly realized that to achieve that goal, his team had to change its mindset from thinking selling coffee to creating a third place between home and work, a culture of connection and customer experience. This shift didn't happen overnight. Many of his employees didn't even immediately understand or even buy into the vision. Some resisted the changes he introduced, but Howard believed in his team and he remained patient. He allowed them the time they needed to embrace the new culture and continuously reinforcing the vision and the values, offering training and providing support. And over time, this patience paid off. His employees became ambassadors of the Starbucks experience, and today, Starbucks is a global powerhouse. So, Howard Schultz's journey at Starbucks is a perfect example of how leaders must practice patience when developing their team. It's easy to become frustrated when changes don't happen as quickly as we'd like, but the key is to recognize that growth is a process. A great leader nurtures the team's development, knowing that every failure is a lesson and every challenge is an opportunity to grow. While practicing patience is critical, it must be coupled with persistence. So patience allows you to give your team time to grow, but persistence is what keeps you pushing forward even when things get tough. I want to share a story that truly captures the power of persistence in leadership. So let's talk about Walt Disney. He is one of the greatest visionary leaders of the 20th century. Before the massive success of Walt Disney's empire, he faced numerous failures. His first animation studio even went bankrupt. He was told that Mickey Mouse would never work. He faced financial ruin multiple times, and even when he finally achieved success with Snow White, his critics predicted it would flop at the box office. But what made Walt Disney a great leader was not just his creative genius, it was his persistence. He believed in a vision, and despite the setbacks, he never gave up. He surrounded himself with talented people rather than folding under the pressure of failure. He inspired his team to continue and innovating and pushing boundaries. The result? Disney's persistence transformed a small animation studio into one of the most iconic brands in the world, touching millions of lives through entertainment. Now, why is Walt Disney's story relevant to developing your team? Because just like Walt Disney, you will face challenges in building a successful team. There'll be times when things seem to be falling apart, when progress is slow, and even when morale is low. Your persistence as a leader is what will inspire your team to keep going. And if you give up at the first sign of trouble, so will they. Persistence is what separates average teams from great ones. You can't simply wait for things to get better. You have to keep pushing forward. You have to find solutions and motivating your team to stay the course. So this means offering consistent feedback, celebrating small victories, and being relentless in your pursuit of growth for both you, your team, and for yourself. Now, you might be thinking, how do I balance patience with persistence? After all, it can seem like these two qualities are in conflict with each other. So how can you be patient with your team while also being persistent in driving results? This balance is one of the most challenging aspects of leadership, but it's also one of the most rewarding. So let me give you a real-world example of a leader who mastered this balance. Angela Ahrendts. She's the former CEO of Burberry. When Ahrendts took over Burberry in 2006, the company was in trouble. The iconic British brand had lost its edge, and the company was struggling to reconnect with a new generation of consumers. So many of the leaders would have come in, they would have made sweeping changes, they would have demanded immediate results, but not Ahrendts. She knew that Burberry's transformation would take time, and she was patient. She spent months listening to employees, understanding the culture, and then learning the company's strengths and its weaknesses. But her persistence, while she took her time to understand the company, she was relentless in the pursuit of excellence. She introduced new digital initiatives, modernizing Burberry's brand and set a clear vision for the future. She pushed her team to innovate, but she also gave them the time and the resources to succeed. So over the course of her leadership, Burberry's sales tripled, and the company became one of the most admired luxury brands in the world. The key lesson from her leadership is that patience doesn't mean inaction, and persistence doesn't mean impatience. You can give your team the time they need to develop while still maintaining a sense of urgency. You see, this balance requires clear communication, strong support systems, and an unwavering commitment to the long-term vision that you hold. Leaders who master the balance between patience and persistence create an environment where their teams can thrive. Patience allows your team to take risks and make mistakes, knowing that they won't be penalized for learning. Persistence, on the other hand, ensures that you're constantly moving forward and you're overcoming obstacles and staying focused on the goal. Now that we've explored the importance of patience and persistence through real-life stories, let's talk about how you can put these principles into practice. So here are some practical strategies for cultivating patience and persistence in your leadership style. First, you have to set clear long-term goals. One of the biggest mistakes leaders make is focusing too much on short-term results. So when you're solely focused on quick wins, it's easy to lose patience. And instead, set clear long-term goals for your team and consistently remind them of the bigger picture. Break down these goals into smaller, manageable steps and celebrate progress along the way. This not only helps you and your team, but it's going to help them stay motivated. And it's also going to allow you to practice patience as you work towards the ultimate vision. Second, you need to embrace a growth mindset. So you have to encourage your team to adapt and to grow. The belief that abilities and intelligence can be developed through hard work and dedication is real. When your team believes that failure is part of the learning process. So be more willing to take risks and push boundaries. As a leader, this requires patience on your part. You need to create a culture where mistakes are seen as opportunities to grow, not reasons for punishment. Third, you need to provide continuous feedback and support. Persistence doesn't mean pushing your team to the brink of burnout. It means consistently offering feedback, guidance, and resources to help them improve, and you have to have regular check-ins. You're going to have performance reviews, and you're going to have one-on-one meetings. These are great ways to stay engaged with your team's development while demonstrating that you're in it for the long haul. When you persistently invest in your team, they'll be more likely to persist with challenges. Number 4, model resilience. You know, as a leader, your team looks to you as a role model. If you lose patience or give up easily, your team will follow suit. But if you remain calm under pressure and you're resilient in the face of adversity, your team will be more likely to stay motivated and focused. Remember, leadership is about showing the way. When you embody patience and persistence, your team will naturally follow your lead. So number 5, be transparent about challenges. You see, it's important to be honest with your team about the difficulties you face. When progress is slow or when obstacles arise, don't sugarcoat the situation. Be transparent about the challenges, but also communicate your confidence in your team's ability to overcome them. This approach not only builds trust, but it also reinforces the importance of persistence in achieving success. And number 6, celebrating small wins. Persistence is often focusing on incremental progress. So when your team reaches a milestone, no matter how small, take the time to celebrate. These moments of recognition help to keep morale high and remind everyone that progress is about being made over time. That these small wins are going to add up. And it's going to lead to significant breakthroughs for your team. Now, for the final thought, patience and persistence aren't just leadership qualities. They're the foundation for successful team development. I want you to think about stories that we have today, whether it's Howard Schultz transforming Starbucks, Walt Disney overcoming failure, or even Angela Ahrendts revitalizing Burberry. These leaders succeeded because they practiced both patience and persistence in their approach to leadership. They didn't demand immediate results, nor did they allow setbacks to derail their vision. They stayed the course. They nurtured their team, and they pushed them to improve and believe in long-term payoff. As a leader, you must recognize the truth in development takes time. People don't change overnight, and you don't want to always see immediate results. But if you're willing to be patient, and if you're committed, persistent, and guiding your team through the ups and downs, you're going to find that the rewards are far greater than anything you could have achieved. And those quick fixes are going to result in short-term thinking. So remember, patience allows your team to stay, grow, and persistence ensures that growth continues, even in the face of challenge. So I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode of Going Rich Leadership. I hope you found today's session helpful and that you're willing to apply these principles in your own leadership. Be patient, be persistent, and most importantly, believe in your potential for yourself and of your